Today I thought it'd be a good idea, seeing as I've had the car for just over a month now, I think, to do a 1 month ownership of the car, talk you through my experience with the car, sort of like the fuel economy, what the aftermarket part scene's like, and just touch on a few other things. I've got a few notes wrote down which I'm going to go through, so I'll try and cover everything. But I thought it'd just be a good idea in case any of you guys looking at getting a Subaru, whether it's this year or another year, try and touch on what to look out for and what my other experience has been with this car so far. So first I thought we'd touch on the driving experience of the car. So I thought I'd show you the engine. So it's got a 2.5 litre boxer engine in these. It's a UK spec car. You can get the Japanese imports, which are 2 litre, which I believe are semi-forged.
Really?
So first of all, I'll touch on the drivability of the car. So the engine it's got, with it being the UK spec, is a 2.5 litre boxer engine. So you get that Subaru rumble. It's got unequal length headers from factory. You can get the Japanese imports, which have 2 litre engines, which I believe are semi-forged from factory, but they're a bit more costly to buy outright. So yeah, that's the engine in it. It's a fairly torquey engine. It's got obviously it's got a turbocharger on it. It's a Subaru. And I think from factory it has 300 or 295 brake and about the same in torque, but this one's running a bit more. It's running 330 brake and 370 foot-pound of torque after having to have a new downpipe and a map due to the standard cats actually collapsing, so I lost all boost, so I had to have a new downpipe which has been put on, and it's running perfectly fine now. As overall drivability, the handling's great. It's all-wheel drive. You can feel it kick you around corners, which I felt the other day on a pop drive video I'm doing. You can definitely feel the four-wheel drive kick in when it needs to kick in. But apart from that, I mean, it's a bigger car than... so compared to the Clio, sorry I keep getting interrupted by a fucking car alarm going off. Compared to the Clio, it's a lot more boaty, it's a bigger car. It obviously weighs 1.5 tonne opposed to the Clio, which weighed like 1 tonne thereabouts. And it's also not on coilovers or anything. But for a standard car, standard suspension more or less, it handles very well. And it's quite a comfortable car to drive. That's coming from a coilovered Clio though, so obviously it's a bit different. But yeah, it's a nice car to drive. It's easy to drive. Other people have drove it. Like first time getting in it, never stalled it. It's really easy to drive. The clutch is nice. Gearbox is really nice, and overall, a fairly smooth car to drive and fun to drive. So yeah. So we'll touch on sort of the economics and how economical it is to run one of these cars. We'll first touch on the obvious thing, which is miles per gallon and fuel economy. I've had this averaging about 16.5 miles per gallon, and that's like most urban short drives. I think if you drove it, you know, trying to actually achieve decent miles per gallon, you could probably get, I'd say 18s to 21s. So it's not great. And then on the motorway, I actually reset it when I went on a drive the other day, and I actually achieved 31.5 miles per gallon, and that was with a few pulls. So it can be decent on fuel, but it's never going to compare to, obviously, I mean, it's not the sort of car you have for obviously achieving great miles per gallon. It's more of a fun car to drive. So yeah, you have to be prepared for filling it up. I think a full tank costs about 70 to 80 pound of that's momentum, so 99 run at Tesco. So it's not too bad, and I'd say currently when I drive it, I have to fill it up about once a week, so it's 150 to 200 quid a month in fuel. It's quite a lot, but compared to like the Clio, it's not too bad. So yeah, it's decent. Other things to notice is obviously these need servicing and maintaining well. You're supposed to check the oil, I've been told, every week and top it up if it's down at all. The oil I've been told to use is 10W50 because it's obviously got a performance map on it now, which is I think like 72 quid for 5 litres, which is about right for sort of like racing oil. But obviously you're supposed to do probably oil changes every 6 months to a year on these, so they are fairly involved for maintaining. Another thing that you also want to bear in mind if you're buying, it depends on what Subaru you get in. With this one, because it's a very rare saloon of like the 2011 to 2013 or 2014 or whatever it was, parts for it are expensive. Like if you want wing mirrors. If one's got like a crack in it, like to replace the fog light. I think a set of fog lights for this cost me 180 quid, because you can't buy them individually anywhere, whereas for all the older Subarus you can pick them up for like 30 quid because there's a lot of parts for them, whereas there wasn't many of these made that came to the UK, so parts for them are sparse and hard to get hold of, and if you can find them, very expensive, so bear that in mind as well. So the interior is something I'm going to touch on. The interior in this I actually really like. It's quite basic, it's a Japanese car, but the Recaro seats are really nice. They're nicely bolstered, they hold you in place when you're driving it, fast on B roads. The steering wheel's really nice, it's not too big, not too small. And when you're around corners it's hydraulic steering, so you can feel the road through the steering rack, which is really nice. It's got nice gear shifter with a short shifter in it. Obviously the driving position is very good, handbrake's right next to you, you're sort of cocooned in with all the centre dash around you. One thing you must do, I've never had the standard unit but I know they're not great, so having an aftermarket unit with like Apple CarPlay and stuff is great to have in one of these. Apart from that, as you can see, the rest of it's pretty much basic, you've just got your climate control and stuff. But yeah, everything's there that you need for the car. Any, creature comforts you're not bothered about aren't going to be in it. It's a Japanese car at the end of the day, it's Subaru STI, so...
This is the only thing that matters.
This is the only thing that matters, what a ham... Oh yeah, and you've got your SI drive stuff there.
That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, which is mostly in sport shop all the time now, so... Yeah. As for the practicality of the car, you've obviously got a lot of boot space with it being a saloon. Even if you get in a hatchback, you have a fair bit of boot space, but as you can see, quite a lot of room in the back of there. The seats obviously also go down. I'll also go around and show you the back of the car. Obviously there's plenty of room in the back of the car, easy enough to have passengers quite comfortably sat, and it's also nice seats as well with the Alcantara on them. So as in practicality, as in space, it's great. Obviously practicality as in it being an economical family car, it's not going to be practical in that way if that's what you're looking for. But if you want something where you can still get everyone in it and it still goes like shit, then it's decent. Aftermarket parts for these cars as well I'll touch on, because obviously many people that get the Subarus will want to actually modify them like myself. Now there's two ways of this. With these this certain year of car, it's quite hard to get parts for if it's like specific to this version. Like if you're looking for second-hand exhaust, it's going to be very hard to find one for the saloon model, because not many people in the UK have it. Obviously it's different if you're in America and stuff. Whereas if you had like one of the older STIs, obviously there's second-hand exhaust flying about because loads of people had them. But then as for like more engine mods, like my HKS dump valve, you can actually get the same dump valve, and it's the same one from like the Blob Eye Hawkeye era all the way up to the brand new Subarus. So you can actually like use the same parts over the last 15 years of these cars, and a lot of the parts will still fit. So in that respect it's good. But in respect to the specific model, if you've got like, I don't know, if you want a diffuser or a splitter on it, then there's only select places which stock a lot of the parts, so it can be quite hard to get hold of. And like with the Clio, I could get a lot of second-hand parts to keep costs down for modifying it. With this, a lot of the things I want have to be brand new because there's no options. No one's got these cars with parts selling them. It's very rare that they come up. So that's another thing to bear in mind if you're going to look at modifying one of these. You have to bear in mind a lot of the parts you're going to want, you're probably going to have to buy new. So it's not going to be the cheapest way of doing things. Okay. Another thing I think I'd show you before I forget is that these saloon versions are also known for getting water in the boot. Overdoes these seals, so we've actually been trying to sort that. And you'll get water here built up, which is under that sort of whatever that thing's called. No idea. Can't even get it in now. So yeah, you get water under there. It's only when it's raining like really heavy. I think we've sorted it on this, it's not leaked when I wash the car now. But if you do get that, you can just put some like sealant, seam sealant under there. If not, then you can try and replace the actual boot seal. I think I got a quote from Subaru, it's about 80 quid for a boot seal, 90 quid. Not the cheapest, but again, it's not bank breaking, is it? It's easiest to sort. So yeah, there are two main issues I've had with the car. Other than that, the issues I've had, it's like the fog light being broke, which I had to replace. Simple things like that. Luckily, like the fog lights on them, it's the same fog light, just in a different fog light like holder. So you can buy it from more or less any of the same year Subaru and just use your existing holder and switch the fog light over, which is what we did with this one. Apart from that, not really had many issues with it, apart from what I touched on earlier with the downpipe, the cat in the downpipe collapsing, which I don't know how common that is on them, so can't really comment on that. Last thing I want to say is I really enjoyed driving this car just because of how respected it is now within the UK. You don't see many Subarus, they're getting rarer by the day. The price of them is going up every day, definitely for the older STIs now, like the Blobs and the Hawkeyes, definitely for Bug-Eyes. So when people hear one, they used to be quite common, they're not anymore. It's a really nice sounding car. People always turn heads when you're driving it. Definitely mixed with the dump valve, which is like Marmite. Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally love it. And also, yeah, it's just a sick car. People don't see this year in a saloon model a lot. So I was driving down the M1 the other day, and actually got like this guy in a lorry, literally like with his head hanging out, looking behind, like asking me to floor it and stuff, which was quite funny.
Cue clip.
And then when I'm at the petrol station and stuff, people always ask me about the car. I've had like, when I was in the Clio, people would like not want to look at it because it looked a bit chavvy, whereas people actually want to pay attention to this and see it and they're like, what the hell, never seen one of them before. Because I think before I owned this, I'd seen one other saloon of this year in red, and that's the only one out of however long they've been out. So they are quite rare cars. I think I actually looked and there's a website called like How Many Left, and I think of these in the UK it was like 430 left or something, which is quite low.
Only 300 ever made in that colour, weren't there?
Out of like, yeah, I think there are only like 300 made in this colour. You don't see grey ones a lot of these at all. I mean, the most common colours, even though people say it's rare, is the white. White's the one that comes up most, and then you've got like blacks and...
The blue is impossible.
Blue is impossible to find unless you get a JDM import. I don't know if they did blue in it or not, or if everyone's just garaging them, but I've never seen a blue one in this year. Not a UK spec anyway, so... Yeah, it's a really well respected car now, and yeah, it's great for driving. There's one of the last things as well I've just remembered, so I was going to touch on, is the paint. The paint, as you might be able to see in the camera shot, you might not, is actually really nice, like a grey metallic-y blue flake in it. The problem with it is you can see all the watermarks. I only cleaned this the other day and it gets very dusty very quickly, so keeping it clean, if you want to keep it clean, is a pain. And the grey, when it's not clean, doesn't look the best, but when it is clean, it's really satisfying because the sunlight hitting off of the metallic flakes, it's not a grey really I've seen in any other car like it. So yeah, keeping it clean if you get the grey is quite difficult, but I'm sure if you got another colour you'd probably be fine with it. But yeah, and obviously it's quite a big car to keep clean, so it isn't the quickest car to clean, definitely with like the wide arches and stuff, but hopefully I'll be getting it full detail and DA polish soon anyway. I think that's more or less everything I've got to talk about really. I'm sure I'll be able to do an update in like a few more months time when I've learnt more about the car. It's hard going from knowing everything about the Clio scene to going into a Subaru scene, not knowing too much. So I'm only trying to sort of talk about what I already know. I don't want to give any information out there that's not true. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.